Have you ever thought to yourself that balancing a 9 to 5 is actually a difficult thing, especially when you're trying to start a business? Well, in today's video, I'm going to be talking about how you can do just that in order for you to start making income and still continue doing what you're doing in your main job. If you don't know who I am already, my name is Michael Tabaradi, high performance coach and mentor, and I help self-starters and ambitious professional millennials increase their productivity, enhance their performance, realize their priorities, and live their life on purpose. Now, if this is the first time you come to my YouTube channel, don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you can get more videos like this. And as always, all the links are in the description below. Now let's get into the video. Now, balancing a 9 to 5 is not an easy thing to do, especially if you're trying to develop some sort of side hustle. Now, many of us have been wanting to develop side hustles due to the rise of social media, access to information, the democratization of information as well, especially seeing all these people produce a certain lavish and glamorous lifestyle. And so maybe that's something that we want ourselves. And I guess at the beginning of this whole sort of topic is really understanding, why is it that you're doing this side hustle or this business? What is the why? I hate saying what is your why, but why are you doing this? Okay, what is the reason, in other words? Because if you can get down to the root of that, then this becomes an easier thing for you to do. And it's not a question of balance. It's a question of consistency. It's a question of commitment. It's a question of discipline. So these are all things to consider. Is your reason for doing this based on wanting to ascertain some level of financial freedom? Are you doing this because you just want to top up in terms of what you're doing? Are you doing this because you want to make an impact, but you also want to get some sort of social reward for what it is that you're doing? There are all different reasons as to why we want to do a side hustle, but really, you want to get rid of the side hustle and turn it into a business, a full-fledged business. Now, I'm not going to be here and say that I'm totally dependent upon a full-fledged business, but in some aspects you could argue that I am, because I'm an independent consultant. But with that in mind, I'm also aiming to develop my training business, my coaching business, and all these other things that I'm aiming to do. And so I can tell you what I've done to date, okay, and obviously learn from many other people so that you can consolidate your ideas for yourself so you can get a good picture and idea. So the first thing I spoke about was knowing your reason why, or what the reason is as to why you want to do this. The second thing is to say, what does your time look like? What's your time management saying? Because are you truly doing a 9 to 5 or are you doing an 8 to 5? Are you doing an 8 to 6? What is the reality of your situation? What does that mean in terms of energy input? So usually, and this is what I did at the beginning of my journey, was I did a 2-week audit in terms of how I spent my time. It's not really time management, it's activity management. And that activity management is really energy management as well. So think about what that looks like for you. Don't even think about it. Actually do the exercise. Look through your calendar, or think about it if you don't keep a calendar, and you should definitely try to, especially if you're trying to do a side hustle, and see how you spend your time. That becomes a really important thing, because then you have an hour each day, 3 hours each day, 5 hours each day, etc., etc. The next thing I would say is, how much do you like sleep? Okay. Now, I'm not one of those people who are like, oh, you need to grind and only have 4 hours and all this kind of stuff there. No, there have been many people who have started businesses, successful businesses, without, doing it with 4 hours sleep a night. But what I can say is that sometimes you'll have to do things that you don't enjoy doing. That's the reality of the situation. And so think about how much sleep you actually want and orient your time around that, because when I've coached many different clients, okay, in various different fields, the biggest problem that they had was sleep. It sounds weird, but it's sleep. And that's because of the lifestyle choices they committed to. And so work backwards in terms of how much sleep you would ideally want, okay? And then make those changes. The next thing to say is that, is your environment conducive to you actually doing your side hustle? Do you have a desk? Do you have a laptop tray if you need to sit on your bed or whatever it is? If you don't have a desk, do you have a noisy environment? Could you go to the library, or could you go to a dedicated space? Do you have headphones? I mean, do what you can. Not everyone's situation is going to be the same. Not everyone's going to have a desk. But you have to think about what your environment is saying. Very, very important. Very important, because if you set up your environment in the right way, you're more likely going to get work done. Okay, you're more likely going to do deep work, as Carl Newport would say. The next thing to consider is how organized are you? So how much planning have you done with this? Be clear about why you're doing this, as stated before, what your market is, who you're serving, what problem you're trying to solve, okay? And what others have done in order to try to solve this problem. How can you be different? Because the less you know, the less balance you're going to have. That's the reality of the situation, my friends. And so be very clear about all those different aspects in terms of going forward. Now, you don't have to do a full-fledged business plan. I have got a video on that. But what I can say is the more you know, the better you'll become in terms of executing. Okay. The next thing I'll say to that is see if you can get people to help you. May be difficult at the beginning and you may need to sort of like prove your worth. And this is how you can prove your worth. You could obviously go onto social media and share your information in terms of what you're learning. Different types of people. You could be the informant. You could be the hero person who's talking about what they've done. You could be the person who's the expert, okay, very knowledgeable in what they're doing. You could be the person who is sharing other people's journeys. You could be the experimentalist like a Tim Ferriss and basically do experiments and share your learnings. There are different ways in which you can do it. So I don't want you to get so distracted on social media that you're not focusing on the revenue generating things. However, you should be able to really provide value in some sort of way, in a scheduled way, in order for people to understand what you're about. Okay. And so the way you do that with planning and organization is think about the topics, okay, that you're doing, write it out. So maybe when I say write it out, just have a calendar, okay, a calendar for each week in terms of what you're doing. And post and just follow that calendar. Sometimes you may want to be sporadic. Maybe you're more of a, I'm going to do a spur of a moment sort of thing. But just make sure you're consistent. Don't allow it to take too much time. So maybe choose one social media platform, possibly two, and focus on that. But it shouldn't take more of your time because we want revenue generating stuff. The social media is useful for advertising if you're doing paid ads. I would say collaborations as well. And brand awareness, okay? And with brand awareness, you could get deals, but we want to be able to control our rhythm of income, okay? So that's another thing. So think about how you can, I think it was about get help from people if you can and plan. So going on the getting help thing, I've spoken about this many times before. Accountability buddies, mastermind groups, coaches, mentors, sponsors, potentially even people volunteering for you, or if you've got the means, paying people to do stuff, okay? Maybe that's a PA at the beginning. Maybe that's a social media manager because you don't want to focus on that stuff. But of course, you want to develop and learn how the game works for yourself. That's the way you want to focus on the most important things. The next thing is to make sure that you validate your business, okay? Because if you don't validate it, you may be wasting your time. So validate it through doing free sessions, free products, free programs, or discounted versions of these things. Learn the challenges, the barriers, the issues addressed through your sort of like market, and then package that in such a way where you can launch it and draw more people in as well. So that's one way you can do that. And then obviously with those people that you discounted the products for, whatever it may be, you basically get some testimonials so you can market that and draw that in as well. Okay. Also see if you can add some sort of budget to your business. Sometimes in a 9-to-5, we think that, oh, it has to be free. And in an ideal sense, I agree. The organic is much better in terms of the long term. But if you're trying to generate revenue because you want a business, then you may have to put aside budget. And that budget may go towards people who can help you or advertising. Okay. There are so many different courses out there that can teach you how to market your business, actually get sales from your product and or service. So there are things out there. Maybe you just need to save up first, pay for that thing, and then follow the process. So you're balanced by nature. We don't want to do things like in an elongated way. We're talking about balance here. We're talking about efficiency. We're talking about being productive. And so don't waste time. I'm not offering anything here. Of course, I'm always going to offer coaching, but there are many programs out there. You just need to do your due diligence, make sure you're comfortable with what you're doing, and then proceed. And apart from that, I can't really think of anything else apart from maybe being very organized. Okay. So when it comes to your content or it comes to your planning or your legal side of things or the financial side of things or the operations, make sure you've got things organized in your folders. Okay, so are you using Google Drive as an example? I'm an avid, believer that Google Drive is a great productivity system, so to speak. Are you using something like Notion potentially, okay, to develop some of your organizations or templates or whatever it may be? So think about how you're going to be better organized. And hopefully those things are useful. And remember, it's not about developing, a brand only. It's about developing a business. The basic definition of business is commercial activity, i.e. exchange of goods and materials for money, okay? For money. That's really important. So focus on the important things, prioritize the important things, focus on the revenue generating things, and I promise you, things will work out for you. I'm sure it will. So be smart about it and follow the process. Don't try to get it too rushed because it takes time, especially in your 9 to 5. If you have more time, think about how you can utilize more time. If you have more money, think about how you can utilize your money. Okay. And if you have the people or the networks or the connections, think about how you can utilize those things. And if you have all three, then you're blessed. Okay. Hashtag blessed. So, I'd love to know your thoughts below in terms of what you think is required in order for you to get more balanced, in terms of managing your 9 to 5 versus your side hustle as well. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you want more videos like this, don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell. And as always, my friends, understand, reach, and expand. Peace.